Now let me talk a little bit about real estate, because real estate, I think, is really where we have unleashed something, and basically I think real estate is in a very different position than it was. See, let's go back. Real estate, very simple business when you think about it. You guys are really good at it, because it was local, it was regional, it was seasonal. You understood the market. First-time buyers, they come in, they get a loan, it was pretty reasonable. Basically then they became the organic move-up buyer, and then you had the affluent buyer. That's how basically real estate worked. Real estate doesn't work like that anymore. It is a totally different animal in a totally different place. We used to live on this idea of the American dream, and what was it? Very easily defined. Community, school district, basically you own the memory, it goes up in value, this is a wonderful place to live, it's roots, it's family. Basically, all that has been turned on its head for a couple of reasons. We basically began to change real estate in the year 2000, when the government wanted more home ownership, we were in a recession, they were pushing it. All of a sudden, the rules changed for how you finance real estate. So that took the American dream, this very traditional loan, and put it on its head. And because of that, everything went up 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%, in a world where real estate had given people 6, 7% appreciation. And in the last 5 years, all the foam has had to come off the top, and we've been in the dregs of the earth, and we're down 30, 35%. So there's been this real transformation because of that. So you have a very different buyer now. So let's talk about what really counts. First of all, I think when you go down and you sit down, you have to start with who is the seller. That is key, because your sellers are very different. It's not just a traditional seller. You go into a neighborhood, you can see 5 houses, and each one could be owned by a different person who has a different price. Maybe they're close, but their basic strategy, what they're willing to do, how they're willing to negotiate, and their time frame is totally different. So if you're on the foreclosure market, the short sale market, you got the banks, you basically have somebody that's a servicing company, you have an individual investor. That means it can go as fast as 45 days, it can be 300 days, they can put it basically at short sale, move it to foreclosure, they don't care, they'll list it for one price, they'll sell it for another, you have no control over that market, they decide when it goes on, how it gets appraised, how long it stays on the market, and they also decide who gets to buy it, because they determine who they want. And who is in that market? That's an all-cash investor market. So you now have your first-time buyer, because that's going to be the first-time market. You don't have a lot of that here. But if you're working in some areas like Daly City, or if you're working in parts of San Francisco, or the beginnings of Burlingame and basically San Mateo on the other side of the freeway, your first-time buyer isn't going to be that first-time buyer that you were used to. It's going to be the investor market, people that are going to come in that basically are paying all cash. They're competing, and here's the difference. That used to be an 80% home ownership market, 20% rentals. You're going to see that market over the next few years become 80% rentals and 20% home ownership, which is going to make the difference for our feet up, feet around market. That will go back. Those first-time buyers will eventually be able to get a loan, but think how many of them can't get a loan, lost their homes, won't be able to have the credit to get a loan. That moved your market. So now your first-time buyer market becomes foreclosures, short sales, investors, hedge funds, pension funds, international investors, all cash people. And they are going to fuel that market, but that's very different than that little first-time buyer that you used to have. You have to know who your buyer is. Is your buyer strong? Is it an investor, all cash? Is it a new developer? Is it a hedge fund? Is it a pension fund? Is it a regular buyer? Is it somebody that can get an FHA, a Fannie, a Freddie? You know, in some of our marketplaces around here on the peninsula, 47% of everything was all cash last month. So that means that you have people that can qualify and certainly do that. The most active pocket of your market is wonderful for a firm like Intero, because you sit here right at the cream and in the middle. And I think that's the market that's basically going to be the best for you. And that's from 400,000, 500,000 to $1.5 million. And I'll tell you why. Because those people are ready. They've been holding back. And here's what they understand, and this is what Gino sort of alluded to. Let's talk about what real estate really is. See, real estate in the American dream is we have to go from this puffy stuff to talking about it as an asset. Now see, when you talk about it as an asset, you're going to have great strength at the table, and let me tell you why. Because once you position it as an asset, you now can compare it to every other asset out there. And you know what? This dredgy, crappy real estate that they talk about is looking pretty damn good compared to the rest of the world. So first, let's define an asset. An asset is a vehicle that you invest in with the potential that over time it will appreciate in value. So how can we define that? It can be real estate, it can be stocks, it can be T-bills, it can be gold, it can be jewelry, it can be art. Now let's look at real estate and let's say, where is the value of real estate? Well, the value of real estate is in the land. That's where it will always be. And basically you can add to it, you can subtract to it by what you put on top of it, but it is in the land. And it is very different than other assets. First of all, it's limited. You're not going to get any more. So if you are in a good area where it's limited and it already has value, its value will just go up because there's not any more of it. So Saratoga, you're not getting any more land here. You're lucky. If you were in Detroit, Michigan, they never had any land value. They don't have a real estate market there. They need to nuke that place, the poor thing, at the end of the day. Go to Las Vegas, Nevada. 125,000 vacant homes there. 1 out of every 4 being bought, basically, in foreclosure and short sale. So you don't want to go there because the land, more, too much, too fast, too soon. This is not a good place to start to buy an asset. The first thing about an asset is you have to buy one that's valuable, because if it's crap and you buy it, how do you expect it to turn out to be valuable? So one is going to be in the fact that it's a limited resource. We live in this wonderful area where there's always usually more demand than supply. That makes it even 4 times more valuable. And go try to build something in Saratoga. Have you ever tried that? Saratoga Shopping Center, which I basically own, I tried to do that through basically the development department here. 18 months of my life. That's why I have lines on my face, because you're trying to deal with people who don't even have a clue what they're doing. But at the end of the day, that's it. And you know what it takes to build everything here. So at the end of the day, that's the first thing. Now, let me tell you why, and let's compare it. So you can go out and you can say, all right, what are we going to compare it to? Let's compare it to the stock market. And if you go back, and let me just tell you, there was an article, and I got to talk about 2 articles in the Wall Street Journal that drove me crazy. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal that started out about 3 weeks ago, and it said, prices are back to 2002 levels, and pessimism is there, and housing is basically the lost decade. All right, now, isn't that wonderful? Front page of the Wall Street Journal. So this guy, Nick Giorosis, wrote this article, and I work for the Wall Street Journal, so I called him, and I said, hello, Nick. And I said, I'm sorry we never met, but I wanted to talk to you about this article. And he said, oh, I did a lot of research. I said, you did? He said, yeah, I did. I said, Nick, how old are you? He said, I'm 24. I said, Nick, you don't know diddly shit about real estate. So I'm basically explain to you the facts of life. I said, first, let's talk about 2002, Nick, because instead of saying how negative this is, you should be touting how wonderful it is that we're at 2002 crisis. Because let's go back. We can agree that real estate went up 5–6% over the last 30 years. So if we went back to 2000 and we said, look, we had 5 years where it was way out of whack. We've had 5 years where it's contracted 30%. So it probably didn't go up 5 or 6% in this lost decade. Maybe it was only 2 or 3%. So go back to 2000, plunk it up to 2010, and you would be at 2002 prices, which is a good thing because all the crap and foam now came out of the market, and we're back to something we can put our hands on and say this is realistic. I said, and you know, Nick, I wanted to ask you about all these cities that you've analyzed here. Oh, it's Case-Shiller, Carole. I took Case-Shiller. They know everything. I said, yeah, great. Harvard, Yale. I sent a kid there. Believe me, it was the worst thing I ever did in my life. They come back, they think they're a genius. You know, you send these kids, they're decent. They come back and they're telling you how stupid you are. Till I said to my son, sit down and shut up. I'm paying your tuition. When you're taking care of me in my old age, then I'll shut up. Who are you kidding? Do I care because you went to Harvard? No, I don't. At the end of the day, okay, fine, Case-Shiller. They're 3 months behind from where the market is. Do I care? No. That was yesterday. We only care what's going to happen. So he says to me, I picked on all these cities though, Carole, and I have Case-Shiller. I said, Nick, let me ask you a question. If you're going to analyze the real estate market in the San Francisco Bay Area and in the nation, don't you think it would have been nice if you included California? He said, yes, but then I couldn't have called it a lost decade. Oh, I said, the first one you pick on is Detroit, Michigan. Oh, but Carole, they're down 56%. No, they're not, Nick. They're down 100%. They don't have a real estate market there. The next one is Las Vegas, Nevada. They don't have a real estate market there either, Nick. You missed California. We have a few city here that count. So at the end of the day, he writes this article. And I said, Nick, look, you don't know what the hell you're talking about at the end of the day. You can't do this to real estate. At the end of the day, we have some areas that are stabilized, some that are actually going up in value. It is basically a spotty market. There is no national market, Nick. Hello? Let me try to tell you that. California, we got north, the central, and the south. We don't even like each other. At the end of the day, it's all spotty. I can come into Saratoga. There's 87 markets in Saratoga, too. So you're not doing the right thing. 2 days later, another article comes out. Now, this one I'm going to tell you is called Housing is a Lousy Investment. And this one I would encourage you to get. This was in the paper, Housing, Lousy Investment. This is written by a PhD. Oh, perfect. Now I got a PhD on my back, right? This guy, Dr. Bridges, from the Marshall School of Business at the University of Southern California. So I also called him. Hello, Dr. And I said to him, I was reading this article. He said, did you like it? I said, no, it's a lousy article. He said, no, it's a good article. I said, no, it's not. And I said, I would like to speak to you about it. He said, okay, fine. I said, you know, doctor, you do what every economist does. You love to compare real estate to the stock market. Why is it that we do that? It's a totally different animal. You can day trade stocks, you can split them, you can buy them back, you can short them, you can take options. It's a different animal, but we're going to compare them anyway. So you say we went up 5–6% in real estate, I agree, but if I had invested in the stock market, I would have made 11% over the same period of time from 1980 to 2010. Bullshit. And I'll tell you why, doctor, because at the end of the day, Google it, 46% of every return you get in the stock market comes from dividends. And dividends are not appreciation. They're return of income, they're taxable, you got it, but they're not appreciation. So if you cut it in half, you're back to 5 and 5. Then I said, you know, there's something else magical about real estate that you forgot to add. First of all, you get to live in it. You can't live in a stock, that's number one. Number two is just think about the magic of real estate. I go on margin in the stock market. I basically borrow $20,000. I buy $20,000 worth of stock. I put 20% down on a home. I can leverage $450,000. Do you realize the amount of leverage you get for the potential of appreciation? Now you put the same 20% down. On one, you get $20,000. On the other, I get the potential of getting a return in appreciation against $453,000. Hello, doctor, you forgot to manage that. Second thing, and the third thing that Gino hit on is, you know, the magic of real estate right now is when it's affordable again. You know that. But the biggest thing is look at the interest rates. When you looked at interest rates at 7, 8, 9%, we said between 9 and 15% went basically to equity. In this world that we're in, 27 to 30% goes to equity, which means you're building appreciation without even having it happen. That's the magic of real estate. My Bank of America stock that's $6 and going to hell in a handbasket, I'm getting nothing but sorrow from that. But basically my home, every time I make a payment, I'm getting equity. I'm getting and owning more of this property without it even appreciating. That's the magic of it. Also, people live there. Hello. So at the end of the day now, he talks about prices. 1980, buy a house, California. Of course, pick on California, right? So in 1980, he says it was worth $100,000. You fast forward to today, and it's worth $383,000. And you know he got that out of CAR because that's the average. So he picked the dregs of the earth. So I said to him, excuse me, you forgot a few things. And he said, well, in the stock market, you would have had $1.8 million. Well, first half of that is dividends again. People live in a house. What about the rent they paid for 22 years? Don't we have to add that back onto the house? That gets us close. And I said, and oh, by the way, I don't know where in the hell you're looking. It may be Fresno, Stockton, Modesto, places like I never want to go because I don't camp well. But at the end of the day, I said, you probably didn't come to San Francisco. Because if somebody bought a house here in 1980, it isn't worth $383,000. Believe me, it's probably worth $1 million. So I said to him, this is a really bad, lousy article, and for you to say it's a lousy investment is taking young people who need to build wealth, need to build it, and basically steering them in the wrong direction. I said, but I would like to ask you one question. In this article, it says that you have a degree, a PhD, I'm impressed, in clinical economics and finance. What the hell is clinical economic and finance? Because I have no clue what that is. Well, he went on for 20 minutes to explain it to me, and at the end I said to him, I guess I'm just stupid. I'm sorry. I have no clue what you need and what you do. But you do need a clinic, and I think it's for rehab. So that's what I think. Now, the middle market, why do I think it's going to be good? Because of all the things we just talked about. Because it's stabilizing there, because it's affordable, because basically they understand interest rates at 3–4% is not basically cheap, it's free, and just sit there. Just sit with the damn thing. Pay off the mortgage. Gain that 27% in equity. It'll appreciate without even appreciating. That's the key now. And I gave you a printout, and I want you to look at it. It's this. This is great. Now, I know you have your own finance company, and please use that, but I just needed to do this. This shows you, even without appreciation, the magic of real estate. This is what you need to do with your buyers and sellers. This takes a $525,000 purchase price, 20% down, and I love it, because the first thing these young people tell you is, oh, 20% down, I got to put down now, that's $105,000, that's expensive. Excuse me, it's not an expense, it's a transfer of an asset. You have to get it someplace, don't you? Either you took it out of a CD, you took it out of a bank account, you took it out of a stock account. Probably all you young people, your parents gave it to you, so shut up because it's a gift. All right, so at the end of the day, you're going to get this loan. It's going to be basically at 4.35%. So at the end of the day, you know what? You're going to go rent an apartment because that's the next thing that revolutionized the real estate business. They can buy, but they can rent. And see, years ago, to get in the right school district, to get into the community, you couldn't get in unless you bought something. But I can rent next to you now. I don't have to buy. So this is the reason why you're going to tell them, one, it's an asset. Because you can't sell the dream with the pup with the community and the school district. They don't need to buy to get there. You're going to sell them the asset. It appreciates without even appreciation. It's the magic of how it's working now against what? A CD? I just called up a CD bank I have. I own some stock in a bank called Lighthouse Bank in Santa Cruz, and I keep my money there because they need it to loan money. The woman says to me, we give you 0.25% for 6 months. I said, look, why don't I just send you a check? Because then I can deduct it as a tax deduction. Because you're going to send me 0.25% of my tax bracket. I'm in negative territory. Oh, I can buy a 10-year T-bill. I won't even be alive in 10 years. I'll be drooling in a nursing home if my children have their way. And at the end of the day, what am I going to get? 1.7%? Oh, great, I can certainly buy stock. Let me go buy some more Bank of America. I can wallpaper it in my bathroom is what I'm going to be able to do with it at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, look at this, real estate, the magic. So now, here you go, $2,500 to rent. Hey, if we basically have to pay for the house, it's going to be $2,700. So you don't have that problem anymore of the big difference between renting and buying on a monthly basis. But here's the magic of what I'm talking about. Because see, the problem is they all say, well, you can't guarantee me it'll appreciate. No, I can't, but you don't need it to appreciate right now. Because of interest rates, you have the magic of real estate. And here's why. If you rent, after 1 year, it's $30,000. If you're buying it, it's $33,000. After 5 years, it's $150,000. After 30 years, it's $900,000 that you've spent. Now, let's go down to basically if you purchase. See, because you get the tax saving, 33%, and because of that 27 to 30% go into equity, you basically are buying another $7,000 of equity in this property. So at the end of the day, your adjustment is $18,000 versus the 33. There's the magic, and we haven't even added appreciation. So that's what you need to talk about with people. Now, let me talk about this middle market, because here's what you're going to find in your middle market. You're going to find multiple offers, you know that, because that's basically what's happening, 47% all cash there. So here's what I like to do with sellers there, because they're going to get greedy the minute they see multiple offers. And I like to talk to them about what I call WOW, which is worth, opportunity, and wealth. Now let me tell you what I mean by that. First of all, they have an asset, all right? And here's the issue with them. In this kind of market, they still have to price very realistically, because otherwise these buyers don't bite. And at the end of the day, it's all about, we said, the value. So you need to say to them, what did you pay when you came into the market? I paid this. Would some buyer come in and pay that today? Probably not. So at the end of the day, here's the thing. When you look at an asset, it's value, time, and money. Those are the only things that are important. And you want to keep them in the most positive side of the equation that you can. So you have something that's gone down in value. If you bought it 5 years ago, you're probably paying 7% interest. So you're paying too much to maintain it every month. That's costing you money. And at the end of the day, yeah, it will appreciate. But we're living in a 2% world here. And basically real estate, the economists all say 1.1 to 2% appreciation over the next years till 2015. It's going to take you forever to get your appreciation back. So at the end of the day, let's just not look at it on the sell side. Let's get these sellers to match it to the buy side. See, it's a coordinated thing. When they buy and sell stock, they get it. But when they do real estate, they become a seller. Then all of a sudden they become a buyer instead of connecting. So you get out now where you get the best value you can. You get into a better loan. You get where appreciation is pushing you forward rather than trying to get it back. So you don't get as much here, but you go into the buy side. And we just said without even appreciation, because of that loan rate, you're in a much better position.